Hey, sports fans, hopefully by this time you know that is the official sound of the new podcast, Unbiased. I'm your host, Mr. Unbiased, Connor Benyon. Today is September 13th, 2022, and I will tell you that week one of the NFL did not disappoint. Week two, of the NCAA football world did not disappoint. The MLB playoff races continue to heat up. The MLS regular season is coming to a conclusion. Let's get right into it. I did want to start with the MLS because I had talked about that at the end of last show and I didn't get to quite to it, so I want to jump right in and get to the MLS. You know, the fascinating thing with the MLS is the fact that they are not the biggest league in the world by far, in any way, shape, or form. But what I find fascinating is the fact that some big names are coming to the MLS, and it's great to see the world of soccer building in the United States. Of course, again, with the upcoming World Cup and the United States men's national team qualifying for the first time since 2014, you can feel that spirit really building in the soccer world. I just wanted to make mention that the Real Salt Lake right now, as they sit, are actually outside of the playoff race. They are currently the 7th seed, and the top 6 seeds make it. And just to give you that overview, they had a 0-0 draw with DC United on the 10th at the brand new American... it just spaced me. Their new field name is America First Field. Instead of Rio Tinto Stadium, it's America First Field. It was the inaugural match. Obviously, it's the same exact stadium, just a different name. So it was a 0-0 draw. They play September 14th against Austin FC. That is on the road. Then September 17th, they host FC Cincinnati. October 1st, they go to LA to play the LA Galaxy. And then October 9th, their regular season home finale is against the mighty Portland Timbers. So 4 games remaining. They're right in the thick of the playoff race. They are actually just 1 point behind Minnesota for that 6th and final spot. So they'll be fighting for that. Again, I did want to shout out and give my praise and love to Real Salt Lake. Obviously, we'll be talking more about them as the MLS season continues and as they make a push for the playoffs. Speaking of which, I did want to also recognize that since we last talked, we did celebrate 9/11, so hence the Stars and Stripes behind me. Prayers and thoughts obviously go out to those affected by that tragic day, and just a great opportunity for us to remember this great nation. So I hope that you enjoy the Stars and Stripes as much as I do. I did want to jump right over to the MLB playoff races. And you know, they continue to be amazing to me for the purpose of, at this point in the season, I feel like teams kind of prove who they are. And I say that for the purpose that the New York Yankees, I know you're really sick and tired of you starting with the Yankees, but I just feel like they're such a fascinating story for the purpose that they had major offensive struggles recently. I mean, they were not able to hit the ball. Their pitching was staying pretty strong, but their hitting was atrocious. But they get a 3-game series in New York against the Tampa Bay Rays, who are charging. They can really cut into that lead. They lose game 1, 4-2. You wonder, oh no, at least I did as a Yankee fan. And I sat there and thought, oh boy, what could we be in for? But what do the Yankees do then? Back-to-back games, they put up 10 runs each. They win games 2 and 3 over Tampa, not Toronto. They win games 2 and 3 over I almost did it again. The New York Yankees win games 2 and 3 over the Tampa Bay Rays by scoring 10 runs in both games. So their offense is hopefully humming. They're on a 2-game win streak. They currently have a 5.5-game lead over the Tampa Bay Rays. And just again, to put into context of, I just feel like if the Yankees were to implode and absolutely fall apart, I feel like by now that would have happened. But a 5.5-game lead with under 30 games in the regular season is a really good spot to be in for the AL East leading New York Yankees. The AL Central, kind of the same thing. The Cleveland Guardians have kind of been in a slump. They actually turned that around and have been on a 4-game win streak. And they have a 3-game lead on the Chicago White Sox. Since we last talked, the Minnesota Twins, who are chasing the Cleveland Guardians for that AL Central spot, have now dropped to third in the AL Central, and the Chicago White Sox are 3 games behind Cleveland. Minnesota's 5 back of Cleveland. And then Houston continues to do what they do. They're 91-50, 11.5 games up on Seattle. So again, for the 3rd week in a row now, those teams haven't changed. So I would stick by that. I think your AL East champion is going to be the New York Yankees. Your AL Central champion will be the Cleveland Guardians, and your AL West champion will be the Houston Astros. In regards to the wild card, kind of the same thing, except Seattle jumped Tampa Bay, which again is huge because they're making this playoff race, and Tampa Bay has to face off against a team in New York that wants to hold their spot. So that's a tough draw. The Mariners are, they actually have the exact same record as Tampa Bay, both teams 79-61, but Seattle owns the tiebreaker. So Seattle 1, Tampa Bay 2, and then Toronto at 3. But Toronto is just a half a game back of Tampa. So while both teams are going to be obviously pushing for the AL East crown, it may be a little far out of their reach, but the 2 and 3 spot for the wild card, and even getting the number 1 wild card spot. Again, Toronto only trails both Seattle and Tampa by half a game. So that AL wildcard spot is going to be a dogfight. Looking forward to seeing what happens in the final month of the season. Over on the national side, really interesting feat is going on in the East. And I say that because the New York Mets all of a sudden saw their lead dwindle to 0. They were tied with the Atlanta Braves. I believe they did own the tiebreaker. So they were, the NL East leader purely by winning the or leading the season series. But their lead is ballooned to 1.5, which again, I'm not saying that's not a huge lead, but obviously you take a 1.5 game lead over being tied. So the Mets lead the Atlanta Braves by 1.5 games. The St. Louis Cardinals are spreading out from the Milwaukee Brewers. They have an 8-game lead in that NL Central. And then out in the West, unbelievably, the LA Dodgers lead the San Diego Padres by 20.5 games. And they have clinched a playoff spot already. Yeah, you heard that right. The Los Angeles Dodgers have already clinched a playoff berth. So the Dodgers are doing what they do at 97-43. They are pumping through. The NL wild card has Atlanta up at the top. Again, 10 games over the next closest, Philadelphia. So again, whether it's Mets or Braves, whoever take second in the NL East will get that first wildcard spot, no question. I gotta say that I think it's gonna be Atlanta because I think New York has a strong enough team, great pitching, that I think they can win that NL East, And so Atlanta, I have, they're at the number 1 wildcard spot right now, and I think that's where they'll be at the end of the season. Again, Philadelphia continues to just hang right in there. They're a game and a half ahead of San Diego, who is that 3rd spot in the NL wildcard, and I think that's what you'll see. So again, while teams keep winning, while teams keep losing, I think everyone is kind of staying where they are in the way of, it's hard to win baseball games. It's hard to continue to, game in and game out, day in and day out, hold off the charging teams that are coming against you. But I thought that was so interesting that the MLB playoff races are almost identical to where we were a week ago. So again, with 1 month to play, you just don't know what to expect, especially in the hunt for October. Some crazy things have happened. So those are your MLB standings. Those are your MLB predictions by me. Again, we'll go week by week as again we rapidly approach the end of the MLB season. For the remainder of the show, we're 10 minutes in. We're going to jump to football. Because again, like I said at the beginning of the show, what a first week of the NFL. And I hope that people will enjoy my NFL analysis. And I say that because there were so many games that I want to dive into. I hope not to spend too much time. And I was laughing with my siblings and my cousins when they were telling me about the podcast, and they said, your first show, you said it was going to be 10 to 15 minutes and it was 20. And then your second show, you said you were hoping it was going to be done in a half hour and it was 40 minutes. So I've learned from my mistakes. I am not going to put a timer on this show, but I do hope to keep you interested. Again, this is the number one thing that I want to focus on. And I'm actually going to start with the NCAA purely just because I don't think there's as much to talk about, especially how, again, really things don't really heat up until conference play, just due in large part because we have so much time until the playoff discussion even begins. But again, I did want to stand accountable, and I am looking forward to standing accountable to you. Unfortunately, this week did not go as I was anticipating. My overall record is a dead even 12-12 at 500. I was right about 12 games. I've been right about 12 games. I've been wrong about 12 games. The part that I'm doing okay on, I guess, is my NCAA record. I do have a winning record in that. It's 5-3. That was after a pretty simple week one. The games that I reviewed and that we talked about were, I did want to start outside of the state just so we can talk about this phenomenal game. And that game was the Alabama Crimson Tide, #1, going to Texas and getting everything they can handle. It took Bryce Young on what you could argue would be a very questionable non-holding penalty, scrambling away and getting the Tide into field goal range, and they kick a game-winning field goal, which would turn into be a game-winning field goal. They kick a game-winning field goal with under 30 seconds. And the thing that I have to say about the Tide is they're a resilient team. They're led by Nick Saban. And you just never know what you're going to get in the way of, sometimes I feel like they can walk over very talented teams. We saw that last year in the SEC championship game against the eventual NCAA playoff champion Georgia Bulldogs. And then other times, you're definitely going to see that they're humans, that they possibly lose games. And it was close in Texas. It was really close. It was really close. But Bama does come out victorious there. So I was right on that game. A game that I was also correct on that is not too exciting because I think we all saw it coming was the Utah Utes defeating the Southern Utah Thunderbirds. I believe the final score of that game was 73-7. So very impressive there. A game that to this day and for the rest of my life, I will never, ever, ever question my pick was the Utah State Aggies, the defending Mountain West Conference champions, hosting the FCS opponent, in-state rival, Weber State Wildcats. Now, I know what you're thinking. As I sat down, yes, I do have my BYU football shirt on. Am I going to sit here and rub it in Utah State's faces that not only did they lose to Weber State, but that they, on their home turf, saw a rather lopsided 35-7 shellacking? I won't rub it in their face purely for the reason that Utah State is in such a fascinating position right now. And the reason I say that is because they defeated UConn, they go on the road, they get trounced by Alabama, they come back home, they lose to Weber State 35-7, not to pour salt on an open wound. It was brought up to my attention as I did my research that Utah State has not scored an offensive touchdown since week 1 against Connecticut. But you know what's interesting is in the world of college football, you aim to win your conference. Utah State at 1-2, coming off a loss to Weber State, in the which just nothing went right. Like I'll just say it straight. Nothing went right for Utah State on Saturday. You come off of that game and you realize we can still win our conference because they haven't played a conference game yet. That's what's so interesting about college football. So to Utah State, I say that the season is far from over. They still have an opportunity, and again, a great opportunity as the defending Mountain West Conference champions, led by Logan Bonner, sorry, his name slipped my mind, led by Logan Bonner, Utah State still has a great opportunity to go win the Mountain West Conference again. And again, that has nothing to do with losing to Alabama, nothing to do with losing to Weber State. Like, they still have BYU on their schedule, non-conference opponent. Like, focus on your conference play. While I do have the opportunity to talk about this, I did want to give praise to Weber State because, again, no disrespect to them, but if you gave me this game 10 times out of 10, if you gave me this game 10 times, I would pick Utah State 9 times, and it would maybe be 10. I mean, I just, my ultimate praise goes out to Weber State for the way that they played this game, for the way that they handled it, for the way that they came back from adversity. They were down, they were up 3-0, and then they were down 7-3, and then they went on their rampage. You know, I just can't give enough credit to this Weber State team. So major credit to them. They did hurt my prediction record, though, because I would not have predicted that one. And the one that, you know, and I know you're thinking, of course, you saved this one for last, is the BYU Baylor game. I mean, what more do you want me to say? Yes, I was there. I was in Lavelle Edwards Stadium when the number 21 ranked BYU Cougars defeated in double overtime the defending Big 12 champion and Sugar Bowl champion Baylor Bears in double overtime, 26-20. And you know, it's what I said last week. I couldn't go against Baylor, and they were a great team. They were very disciplined. Their running game was phenomenal. I had a couple Baylor fans that actually sat in front of me, and at the end of the game, you know, we exchanged pleasantries, you know, shook hands, said, what a great game, you know, this was amazing. They talked about the atmosphere, and I said, I'm rooting for you guys. Go win the Big 12. And I think they will win the Big 12 again. This is a really good Baylor team, and I look forward to seeing what they can do for the rest of the season. You know, but just this BYU team, they're amazing. They are phenomenal in the way of when they put their mind to it, they can do what is needed, which is going to be so interesting moving on with the rest of this season. They have some very tough opponents. This week is not any easier. We'll talk about that in a second. But just to put into context the greatness of this game, this was BYU's first win over a top 10 team in Provo since 1990. And as my father, who loves to really rub my nose in it, would tell you, the last top 10 team to fall in Provo in 1990 was the defending national champion, number 1 ranked Miami Hurricanes. The Cougs, led by Ty Detmer, who would eventually go on to win the Heisman that year, would defeat the Miami Hurricanes, pull off one of the biggest upsets of that year, one of the biggest wins, hands down, in BYU football history. And now it has company and a neighbor with the game that I was pleased to be at. The overtaking of the number 9 Baylor Bears in double overtime in an instant classic. So it was kind of a win-win situation in the way of, had BYU lost, my record would be 1 game better. But because I was wrong, I will tell you I've never been so happy to be wrong. BYU had a great game. And again, they'll be fascinating to look forward to. And that's what we're going to jump into, actually, looking forward really quickly before we get to the games of this week. I did want to refresh the top 25 rankings. Georgia jumps Alabama. They become number 1. Alabama 2. Ohio State 3. Michigan 4. Clemson 5. Oklahoma 6. USC 7. Oklahoma State 8. Kentucky 9. 10 Arkansas. 11 Michigan State. 12 BYU. 13 Miami. 14 Utah. 15 Tennessee. 16 NC State, 17 Baylor, 18 Florida, 19 Wake Forest, 20 Mississippi, 21 Texas, 22 Penn State, 23 Pittsburgh, 24 Texas A&M, and 25th Oregon. I did want to bring up super quick, again, going into this game, BYU, going into the Baylor game, BYU was 21st. You may wonder, how did they get all the way up to 12th? Another thing to talk about college football. What a weekend of the upset. Number 6, and I apologize, I actually didn't write this down, but if my memory's correct, number 6, Texas A&M lost to Appalachian State. Appalachian State did it again. Appalachian State, back in, I believe it was 2008, went to the Big House, to Michigan, and took down one of the most historic programs in college football. In 2008, Appalachian State did that. Just this past week, they went to Kyle Field, to Texas A&M, one of the biggest home field advantages in college football, to the 6th ranked team in the nation, and knocked off the Texas A&M Aggies at number 6. Yes, I believe they were number 6. I believe it was number 5. No, I apologize. I should have written this down. Notre Dame fell to Marshall. Notre Dame, top 10, fell to Marshall. Baylor, number 9, fell to BYU. Number 12, Florida, fell to number 20, Kentucky. Number 17, Pittsburgh, fell to, I apologize, let's see, who'd they fall to? To Tennessee. And then number 19, Wisconsin, lost their matchup. So that kind of, moves BYU into that 12th spot. It'll be so fascinating to see what happens with this BYU team in the way of, again, transitioning. They play this week at number 25, Oregon, on the road. Now, as much as I would love to pick BYU once again, I almost feel like I have to go against BYU for this reason. I was fairly confident that if BYU lost to Baylor, I would be able to pick Oregon this week. I would be able to pick BYU this week over Oregon. Had BYU beat Baylor, I almost have to go against them and pick Oregon, just because the game on Saturday was so emotionally draining and physically draining that to hit the road and go play in Oregon, it is going to be a test of tests. So unfortunately, for the second week in a row, and again, I'd love to be wrong, I have to go against BYU. I have to pick Oregon, but that's one of the most difficult decisions because I just don't know. Every fiber of my being says you can't pick BYU for another week in such a difficult circumstance. But also, again, they just beat number 9 Baylor. That's a hard thing to repeat. It's a hard thing to do, win consecutive weeks against ranked opponents. It's a hard thing to do in college football to win. There are so many talented programs. So for right now, I have to go against BYU. I'm picking Oregon. It's going to be a heck of a game. I think it'll be a close one. And again, I hope that I'm wrong. But for right now, I have to pick Oregon. And again, it pains me to do, but for right now, I've got to stick with Oregon. Staying in the rankings, the 14th ranked Utah Utes play host to the San Diego State Aztecs. I like them winning their second game in a row, staying at home again. I like this Utah team getting revenge on San Diego State from last season, actually. In regards to Utah State's matchup this season, trying to come back from that tough loss to Weber State, Utah State actually has a bye, so an opportunity to rejuvenate. You can't lose a bye, so I guarantee you Utah State isn't going to lose this week. And then on the FCS side with Weber State, they play host to newly named Utah Tech, and at 2-0, and after beating Utah State, I'm going to have a hard time picking against Weber State, it seems like, for the remainder of the season for most parts. So I definitely have Weber State beating Utah Tech. In regards to some top 25 matchups that I feel are worth looking into, number 13, Miami is at number 24, Texas A&M. That's our only, other than the BYU Oregon matchup, that's the only top 25 clash. And I like Texas A&M to rebound. I think Texas A&M is going to be a fascinating football team to watch for the rest of the season, due in large part to the fact that playing in the SEC West and not being afraid of Alabama, Texas A&M still has a great opportunity to go win the SEC. if they were to win the SEC West, play in the SEC championship game, and win the SEC championship game, if not college football playoff, you're definitely talking a New Year's 6-day bowl game berth. But that loss to Appalachian State really does hurt. They'll have to run the table and go undefeated, no question, in my opinion. But I am going to pick Texas A&M over 13th ranked Miami this Saturday. And again, that was our only top 25 clash other than BYU and Oregon. So again, the NCAA football season, just absolute chaos once again for the second week in a row. And we'll see what week 3 has to offer when we talk next. But we want to get to one of the most entertaining weeks of NFL football that I can remember. Not only just week 1s, but NFL week in general. Week 1 was absolutely phenomenal. And again, to stand accountable, and this is not where I didn't do terrible. I mean, 7-9 isn't great. It's a losing record. And there were some crazy ones, and I hope anybody that follows the NFL will kind of cut me some slack, because there are some games in here that we are going to talk about that literally could not have happened. Like, it must have been a simulation, and they must have been impossible. We must be in the Matrix, and they must have glitched, because some of these games, they're not possible. Number one, and again, we'll go from Thursday onward. The kickoff game, we talked about it. The Buffalo Bills are going to be a great team. I said that I hate to pick against them. You know, I wanted to go with the defending Super Bowl champions, going on the emotions that they had. Well, emotions apparently only get you so far, because the Buffalo Bills handled the defending Super Bowl champion LA Rams 31-10 in LA on Thursday. This Buffalo Bills team is going to be a very talented, very good team, very difficult to compete against. The one thing I wanted to break down very simply with Buffalo, and you can leave comments on my videos because I want to get opinions on this. The thing that I would be cautious of if I was the Buffalo Bills is realizing that with that dominant of a week 1 performance against the defending Super Bowl champions, to me, you just signed your death certificate. And that is, you either die a hero and go and win your first Super Bowl because of the unbelievable week 1 performance, or you die a villain. And that is anything short of a Super Bowl. If the Buffalo Bills do not win the Super Bowl, and I say win, not appear. If the Buffalo Bills appear in the Super Bowl and lose for the 5th time in their franchise history, this season, to me, will be it'll be a waste. And anything short. Should they fall short of the Super Bowl? Failure. Should they fall short of the conference championship? Failure. Should they fall short of the divisional round? Failure. Should they miss the playoffs by some miracle? Absolute failure. So Buffalo is going to be fascinating. They have their challenge, and I think they're ready for it. Now, is that my way of saying that I think Buffalo is going to win the Super Bowl after week 1, a team that we're going to talk about in a little bit? I can't give you a Super Bowl prediction because we just don't know enough, obviously. Such a small sample size. But was their 31-10 victory impressive? Yes, that I will not go away from. Congratulations to the Bills on a killer week 1 kickoff game. Again, games you wouldn't believe happened. The New Orleans Saints, thank goodness they eked out a 27-26 victory, a game I predicted correctly. I did not think it was going to be that close. That one scared me a little bit. Actually, no, it didn't scare me a little bit. It terrified me. So congrats to them. Thanks for the win. The San Francisco 49ers went to Chicago, rainy week 1 in Chicago, and they pounded the ball, won 19-10 over San Francisco. As a San Francisco 49ers supporter and fan, I mean, I get I need to be patient, almost trust the process. And I get that, maybe I'm kind of being a little too critical of Trey Lance, but I just have a problem that you're the defending, that they went to the NFC Championship game, and you come back in week 1 and face a Bears team that lost Khalil Mack, their defensive leader, and you lose 19-10 over a Bears team that, no disrespect to Chicago, isn't exactly impressing me. So, I picked San Francisco to win that game. Terribly wrong. Not even close. And it'll just be interesting to see with San Francisco to see what they do moving forward. A game, again, that I like to call kind of a trickle down from the BYU effect, if you will. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals. The defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals host their division rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this game was unbelievable. Unbelievable. In case you missed it, Cincinnati was down by 6. On the final play of the game, they scored a touchdown to Jamar Chase. Who else? And this was after 5 turnovers, by the way. 5 turnovers. Cincinnati somehow still is in this game. They threw Burrow to Chase. Game-tying touchdown on the last play of the game. Extra point because their long snapper was injured. They had a backup long snapper, threw off the timing. Extra point was blocked. We go to overtime, 20-20. The Steelers get the ball first with Mitchell Trubisky. Do nothing. Punt the ball away. Over to Cincinnati. They get into field goal range. Send out Evan McPherson. Dude's got ice in his veins. The snap, and what happens? Bad timing again. The field goal is missed by McPherson. Then Pittsburgh gets the ball. They miss the game-winning field goal. Then Cincinnati gets the ball back. Nothing. Steelers have one last chance, and at the buzzer, drill a game-winning field goal. Tell me that you would have predicted that. You can't write that crap. So I was wrong on the Steelers-Bengals prediction. That game has such importance because all of a sudden, the Bengals are now a game down in the division standings. And I thought they were going to have a hill to climb against the Baltimore Ravens. As it was, now they're a game behind. This was a game you could not afford to lose. In another very close, entertaining game, one that I didn't think was going to be this close was the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions. Philadelphia eked out that one 38-35. Correct on that game. A game I was dead wrong about that, and I'm not going to use any excuses. I'm doing large part because you'd think, I'm a Chiefs homer and I'm trying to use an excuse. The Miami Dolphins, they took it to the New England Patriots 20-7 in Miami. Tyreek Hill had under 100 yards receiving, no touchdowns. I believe it was 8 receptions. So, we'll see if that was just purely because he's getting new to the offense. Again, the Patriots have a pretty good defense typically, so not a huge debut for Tyreek Hill, but the Dolphins do win week 1 and again get that leg up and help in the AFC East standings. In a game that really was not all that interesting and never really in question, the Baltimore Ravens defeated the New York Jets 24-9. Joe Flacco's former team just was too much. And I think we all kind of saw that coming. In a game that went back and forth that I was correct on, the Washington Commanders get their first win as the Commanders, 28-22 over Jacksonville, but it was a wildly entertaining game. So congrats to the Commanders. The Baker Mayfield revenge tour over the Cleveland Browns fell a game-winning field goal short. The Cleveland Browns, without Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback, defeated the Carolina Panthers 26-24. And again, that had nothing to do with Baker Mayfield. His defense allowed a field goal to end the game, and that's how it went. So I was wrong on that one. But again, nevertheless, super entertaining game. Another game that you couldn't write, the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. In Houston, Indianapolis, they go to overtime. and their kicker in Indianapolis, Blankenship, shanks a game-winning field goal, and they just kind of go back and forth, and the game ends in a 20-20 tie. So, while I picked the Colts to win, the Texans didn't win, but the Colts didn't win. So, it's got to be wrong for me, unfortunately. In a game that, again, it so could have easily helped my record. This was a killer of a week because so many games were so close. The New York Giants pull off an amazing, shocking victory in Tennessee over the Tennessee Titans, 21-20. Biggest thing, Tennessee missed a game-winning field goal, and it was only a 47-yarder. Like, I know that's not a short kick, but it's not one of those where you're getting super long, where you're super worried about it. Tennessee losing this game is beyond fascinating to me for the purpose that the Titans looked almost unbeatable last year, and here they are at 21-20, losing to the Giants in week 1. To me, rather concerning. A game that really has me fascinated. The Minnesota Vikings take down in Minnesota Aaron Rodgers and the Packers 23-7. A lot of people made mention, like, hey, last year, the Packers got blown out by the Saints in week 1, and they ended up getting the number 1 seed in the NFC. I get that, but no Devontae Adams. Their offensive coordinator left for Denver. Do I think that Green Bay's still going to be good? Yeah. Do I think they're going to win their division? Yeah. But this team already looks really strange to me. So we will see what happens with Green Bay. I was completely wrong on this game. It wasn't even close. Congrats to the Vikings on a great week 1 victory. A game that you won't be surprised that I'm interested in, obviously, is the Kansas City Chiefs going to Arizona, who you can argue their receiving core is depleted, their defense is depleted, so a 44-21 victory isn't all that impressive. You can say that if you would like. What I think is most important is the fact that Patrick Mahomes had 5 passing touchdowns, which led the league this week. He had 360 passing yards, which led the NFL this week. And without Tyreek Hill, Kansas City didn't look like they missed a beat, especially Mahomes to Kelsey. The defense, additionally, has been revamped. We talked about that before the season started. I am ecstatic to see what happens with this Kansas City team, because to me, they look just like another Kansas City team that has a great opportunity to make a run of the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens as the season goes along. They have a tough game this Thursday that we'll get to. To quickly wrap up, the Las Vegas Raiders fell to the Los Angeles Chargers in the AFC West matchup 24-19. I correctly predicted that game. The Sunday night game, Tampa Bay and Dallas. Tampa Bay really shut down Dallas. Obviously, Dak Prescott with the thumb injury out 6 to 8 weeks is going to be a killer. Good luck to Dallas. We'll see what happens with them. I was correct on that prediction. The GOAT comes back and does what he does. And then the Monday night game, listen, as a Kansas City fan, I do root for Denver. I have a lot of friends and family that love Denver, so I don't have a problem with them for the most part. Unless they're playing Kansas City, I won't root for them. They just spent their future, it feels like, on getting Russell Wilson and elected to attempt a 64-yard field goal. Sorry, 54, if I recall correctly. Let me pull up the stat line, actually, make sure I've got this right, because I feel that is very important. Obviously, we know it was a field goal. Obviously, 64. It was 64. 64-yard field goal. The Broncos have a 4th and 5 with 3 timeouts, and they elect to kick a 64-yard field goal instead of sending Russell Wilson and the offense back on the field. Denver should have won this game, in my opinion, by 2 touchdowns. This team, with Russell Wilson and the offense that they have, the offensive weapons, and the defensive abilities and players that they have, should have gone in and taken Geno Smith to the woodshed. I am very passionate and very upset that Denver lost this game, A, because they ruined my record. And when I say ruined, I mean made it so I was under 500, which, again, to me is just bothersome. But Denver lost, which was against my prediction, but also, no disrespect, but it was Geno Smith and a Seahawks team that, to me, should have never been in this game. But again, a 64-yard field goal instead of sending your offense out with Russell Wilson on 4th and 5 in the guy that you just said is going to be your future guy. Talk about a lack of confidence, if you ask me. So I better not make this personal and be bothered by the fact that my record is terrible. And predicting is not my strong suit, apparently. Let me get to the upcoming NFL week with predictions, and then I'll let you go, sports fans. Thursday night, the Los Angeles Chargers travel to Kansas City, an AFC West matchup. Last season, LA beat Kansas City in Kansas City. On the short week, coming off of a game where the Chiefs were clicking fully, I'm picking Kansas City. The New York Jets travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns. I've got the Browns taking this game. The Washington Commanders travel to Detroit. I like the Commanders. Unfortunately, Detroit's going to drop to 0-2 in my opinion. An NFC South clash, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. I like Tampa Bay. I'm not going to pick against them very often, if I'm being 100% honest, especially with the weapons that Tom Brady has on the offensive side of the ball. The Carolina Panthers travel to New York to take on the New York Giants. I mean, this is kind of one of those coin toss games. I'm going Giants just purely because I didn't love the way that Baker Mayfield played. Again, I thought he was good enough to beat the Browns, and they weren't. So that was a little concerning. So I'm picking the Giants. I like Saquon Barkley's abilities, and I like this Giants team to take that game. New England, the Patriots, travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. No disrespect, the thing that's going to be hard for me with the Steelers is the fact that I just don't see them winning very often with Mitchell Trubisky, and I don't think that Kenny Pickett's the answer either. I like the Patriots to bounce back. I've got New England beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. The Indianapolis Colts at 0 wins, 0 losses, and 1 draw travel to the 0-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. I like the Colts in this game mainly because, unfortunately for the Jaguars, I don't know how many games I'll be able to pick them to win. It's just an unfortunate reality for right now. A couple of 1-0 matchups. The Miami Dolphins travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. You know, this is a tough one for me. I've got to pick Miami purely for the reason that I know that Lamar Jackson is either not back. I actually haven't heard the reports yet. He's either not back or he's not 100%. So I do like Miami winning this game, but this is one, again, another coin toss. I could definitely see Baltimore winning this game, but without Lamar Jackson, I just can't pick them right now. It'll be interesting to see, though. This will be a really great matchup to tune into. A couple of 0-1 teams, the Atlanta Falcons travel to LA to take on the Los Angeles Rams. I like the Rams getting the rebound and rebounding and getting a 1-1 record, picking up their first win of the season. The Seattle Seahawks travel to the San Francisco 49ers in an NFC West clash. I've got San Francisco rebounding. It'll be interesting again to see will the San Francisco 49ers move back to Jimmy Garoppolo? They signed an extension this offseason. They're keeping him here in San Francisco, probably for this reason. Good luck, Trey Lance. I'll be rooting for you. I want whatever is best for the Niners. So just bring home a win, boys. Again, I'm picking San Francisco. The Cincinnati Bengals travel to the Dallas Cowboys. I'm picking Cincinnati purely because without Dak Prescott, this Cowboys team is going to be a roller coaster. It feels like every year, and now they just lost their starting quarterback. I'm going Cincinnati with the rebound. Houston travels to Denver. I like Denver being on their home field. Russell Wilson's home debut for the Broncos. I like them picking up this win over a scrappy Houston team. The Arizona Cardinals travel to the Las Vegas Raiders. Without his full display of offensive talent for Kyler Murray, I like this Las Vegas team to eke it out, possibly over Arizona. I think this will be a really close, good game, but I am going to take Las Vegas over the Cardinals. The Chicago Bears travel to the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. I'm picking Green Bay. Again, I won't pick against them most of the time throughout the season unless something changes to tell me a different reason, but I do like this Green Bay team over Chicago. On Monday night, it's actually a doubleheader. Very exciting. The Tennessee Titans travel to the Buffalo Bills. And I'm picking Buffalo. I am picking Buffalo. And I ain't going to pick against them very often. I take them against the Tennessee Titans here. And then the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles round out our Week 2 play. And I like the Minnesota Vikings. I think Kirk Cousins is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think with that one win over the Packers to start this season, that may be the trajectory jump they need to really compete this year. I think that they're a wildly entertaining team, and I think that they have some great talent. I think Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen on the offensive side of the ball are wildly entertaining to watch with Dalvin Cook in the backfield, and I like the defensive play as well. So those are all my predictions. I hope you've enjoyed this video as we've broken down football, basketball, not basketball this week, football, soccer, and baseball. I hope you continue to enjoy these podcasts. Again, I hope that they are not too long. I hope they keep you interested, and I hope you know how much I love and enjoy being able to do this show with you. Hopefully you've had a great time, again, watching this video. Hope you have a great week. Hopefully your teams win, hopefully not to my avail, of course, with my record. And above all, thank you for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, leave comments. I'd love to know what topics you'd like me to talk about and what I can do to make this show and podcast even more entertaining. Again, I'm your host, Mr. Unbiased Connor Benyon. Thank you for joining. This was episode 4 of Unbiased. Have a great day. Thank you.